And now it's time for Windy City Sports Talk. And your host, Ryan Young. Hello, Chicago! Welcome to this live Thursday, October the 27th edition of Windy City Sports Talk. I am Ryan Young. For the next half hour, we're going to recap and preview everything going on today in the world of Chicago sports. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at ringside_rep. Love to hear from you. If you want to comment on Spreaker, if you're listening on a desktop, or I think you can comment through a phone, I don't know. Or message me on Facebook, or comment on the link, and let me know what you think. It's a good day to be a Chicago sports fan today. Yesterday was a little iffy. Today, better. I think we'll take today. I think it was a positive. Well played. What a game last night from Progressive Field in Cleveland. I think you saw mainly what a lot of people expected, and that was the Cubs bats to show up. I said last week, and I'm going to eat my words to start the show, that starting Kyle Schwarber would be a bad idea. He almost single-handedly won that game last night for the Cubs. Cubs win of a final of 5-1. They get a base hit from Bryant, a double from Rizzo. Played at home the first run. They added another one. Then they had the bases loaded. They left 13 guys on base. That's the only thing that worries me. If there's one negative out of this, and that is that they need a cap. Yes, they won 5-1. Jake Arrieta, absolutely phenomenal. We'll get to that. But the leaving 13 men on base, I'm going to start with the negative, is definitely a problem, because what if it is only 1-0 and the 1-0 Indians, and they don't capitalize on any of them opportunities? I mean, that game could have easily been a 10-1 game. And we saw that in one of the games, I believe the game 4 against the Dodgers, where they were able to bounce back in, or maybe it was 5, or maybe it was 4. It was 4 when they tied the series. So, you know these bats can do it. They're getting on base. Now the next step is to be able to drive these guys in. And you've seen it all series. You've seen them be able to do this on numerous occasions. And I think, really, they've been able to. They have played tremendously good baseball. But you want to see them runners be able to get in. I think that's the one concern going into the weekend. 3 games at Wrigley Field. Now, positives, back to eating my words. I was talking with Scott Beatty on Monday. I said this would be a stupid idea to put Schwarber in there, who only had 6 at-bats in the regular season, 6 at-bats, I believe, in the Arizona Fall League. You're going to put him in the biggest stage, not knowing how he's going to hit. That was before I knew, of course, he had 1,300 swings and was able to, and got blisters all over his hands, and was going to come in, and I mean, even against Andrew Miller, looked good. And I mean, he just missed a home run on Tuesday night, and got a couple of big hits last night to give the Cubs a big win in Game 2 of the World Series. The first Cubs win in the World Series since 1945. So that's big. And Arrieta pitched, he had a no-hitter to 6, and my sister texts me, she goes, "Does Jake Arrieta have a no-hitter?" I'm like, "Yes." And I'm like, it's like a ugly beautiful. Because he was not, and even Joe Madden said it on the post-game press conference, he was not hitting all of his spots. It wasn't the dominant Jake Arrieta that we saw, and I keep comparing to the one-game playoff against Pittsburgh last year. It wasn't that Jake Arrieta, but it was an Arrieta that was still able to, he was so not direct that I think it threw off the Indians hitters, because Indians hitters were kind of like, okay, is this one going to be in the zone? Okay, we'll swing. But his spots were good. Tremendous job by Jake Arrieta. He did exactly what he needed to do. He had a no-hitter going into the 6th, which you knew he was not going to finish that game. He had a lot of pitches going in, or into that, I believe in that 6th inning. So I think it made Joe Madden's job a lot easier to be able to say, okay, take him out, let's go to the bullpen. And Mike Montgomery did a tremendous job also. So he did a good job, and a guy that could possibly be a number 5 starter next year. Not sure what the contracts are looking like for. The contracts are looking for with the I think Lackey's. They're not sure what's left with Jason Hamill. So, but a tremendous job by Arrieta. He did what he needed to do. He needed to help this team win and even this series up. If we came in today and said that this game, if they lost, I think the world would not have been crumbling yet. Because you have 3 games at home to send it back to Cleveland to take a 3-2 lead. But guess what? You don't. And now you have an opportunity to win your first World Series in 108 years at Wrigley Field. Now, my base on this is that I'd love to see it. It'd be fun to see that atmosphere and that crowd. See all the smiles and the mix with the emotions of the tears of joy to watch this team be able to celebrate a World Series at Wrigley. I thought it was great to be able to see them win the NLCS at Wrigley. But I think the goal for this weekend, and we'll get into this more tomorrow when it's Son Father Friday. I talked to Papa Sean today, and he's excited. He wanted the rundown. But I think the Cubs' goal for this weekend is to win 2 out of 3. Because you want to win, you want to have a lead going to Cleveland if you have to. I know the main goal is to win all 3, yes. Because I think if they win Friday and they get to Corey Kluber on short rest at home, oddly enough on a Saturday, all that plays in the same realm of Clayton Kershaw, by the way. If they win Friday and Saturday, the series is over. Because if they can prove they can beat Kluber, this series is done, and the Indians really have no hope left. So I think that, as my series goes off, I think that is the big key. So if they can prevail, Josh Tomlin don't have any real big postseason experience except for this year. He's going to and I don't even think Corey Kluber, they don't know what they're getting into. Wrigley Field is going to be that place will be shaking Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night. That place is going to be electric. That place is going to be absolutely bonkers to see their Cubs, or our Cubs, possibly win a World Series. Now, you shift to the negative side of things. The Cubs lose Game 3 tomorrow night. That puts their backs extremely against the wall. Because then you do have to face the Kluber aspect. And I think, obviously, the Cub fans and the Cubs don't want to go back to Cleveland. Let's handle this here. But you lose Game 3, and then you have to deal with Kluber in Game 4, and then you have a Game 5 with the Cubs have not faced and either of the Indians faced an elimination game this season. So eventually one of these teams are going to have to face one. And I think in the worst case scenario for the Cubs, you go back to Cleveland next Tuesday, 3-2 up. That is best case scenario. Now, our worst case scenario, best case scenario, this series is done Sunday. Because like I said, if they win Friday and then beat Kluber on Saturday, I don't think there's any way they can win 3 in a row against the Cubs. Because you look at what they got tomorrow night, the Cubs got Hendricks. Then you got Lackey, which Lackey hasn't proved to be that dominant starter that everyone thought he'd be in the playoffs. He's just kind of there. So if they can get him, and then say the Cubs have a 3-1 lead or it's 2-2, Cleveland still has to go through then Lester again, which they were able before, but he'd be home this time. Arrieta and Hendricks. That is a very tough thing to do. They'd have to get through Hendricks twice, possibly. So I think it's a very tough reach. Yes, Cleveland has Andrew Miller, but if your starters aren't doing the job, you're just bringing your bullpen in to avoid any more runs being scored. And like I said, the Cubs should have won by 10 runs last night, which is my one main concern for this baseball team, is that they're running, but I'm not going to nitpick. The Cubs have won their first World Series game since 1948, or 45. So I think that is a celebration of itself. And I think Cleveland fans, who for some reason thought that the World Series was one game, have been very, very quiet within the last day. A lot of pictures being posted of Uncle Eddie, not as Uncle Eddie though, in the movie Major League, where there was one guy sitting in the crowd in Major League. It was the guy that played Uncle Eddie, Dennis, Dennis Quaid's brother. But, so, I think they're quiet right now. And also, I mean, besides their championship, I forgot to say this yesterday, they have no room to talk when it comes to sports teams. Let's compare for 1 second. Cubs and Indians, I call that a wash. Because neither team has done anything in 60 years. Until one of these teams will do it this year. The basketball, is there any comparison? And I believe Alex or Nick is listening because I already got a message down there. I'll check that in a minute. But Michael Jordan and 6 NBA championships. LeBron James coming, losing in the finals, leaving, winning 2 in Miami, coming back, and winning 1. Yeah, no draw there. And then when you got Bears and Browns, when the Bears can say they have a better record than the Cleveland Browns and the Bears only have 1 win, that is sad. And everyone says that Cleveland is a football city. They would trade a World Series for a Super Bowl any day of the week. So, and the Bears made it, and they won it in 85. They haven't really done anything since. They made it to the Super Bowl, and I can't believe it's going to be 10 years this year. Or last year it was. Or was it this year? They made the 07 Super Bowl? And just Cleveland sports, Cleveland just needs to shut up. And I think they'll be quiet now. Because they're not even sure if they're going to get to see another World Series game. Because if the Cubs become as dominant as they were last night, it's going to be tough. At Wrigley, Cubs need to win 2 out of 3. That's the worst case scenario. Win 2 out of 3 and have a chance to eliminate them on their field. If not, maybe this series is going to go 7. I don't know if I can handle a Game 7 to be that close. But we all know how the Indians handle Game 7s of the World Series. But they were on the road for that one against the Marlins, and they lost. So that's that, and that is the Cubs win. 1-1 in the World Series. I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about. Possibly. I guess we can bring this up now. I'll talk to my dad about it tomorrow. But the Kyle Schwarber situation. He played the two games in Cleveland, which leaves him because of the designated hitter. Now you shift gears to Chicago, and for you people that aren't that familiar with baseball, it's National League ballpark. There's no designated hitter. The pitcher's bat. So you put that there. And and really, when you think about it, this team won 103 games without Kyle Schwarber. Now, they might not have won a World Series game with Kyle Schwarber, or without Kyle Schwarber. So, what do you think here? Now, who do you take? Now, Hayward has been unbearable. And I know that. And he made some good contact last night on a shirt. Then he struck out, I believe, his second at-bat. But his first at-bat was great. Hard contact, deep to center is what you want. Do you put Zobrist in right and put Schwarber in left? Now, with Kyle Hendricks pitching tomorrow, it'll be a ground ball kind of game. And apparently, I forgot who said it. The best way to test your knee is to be batting, because that puts a lot of pressure on your knees. And he's been batting fine. Now, he's not a good fielder to begin with. I think the Cubs are going to have a lot of questions going into 2017. I think this will be the final time we see Dexter Fowler. I think hopefully they can win a championship with him. But I think this will be it for him. Apparently the Cardinals are looking at him. Because then if you think about this, you get rid of Soler or trade him or do whatever you got to do. And maybe, I don't think they're going to trade Baez. But when his stock is up as high as it is, possibly give him that chance to trade. So then you have next year, you have Schwarber. Maybe you don't. Well, I had this planned out. Maybe it's to keep Baez at second, keep Zobrist in left. Hayward moves to center, and then you put Schwarber in right, or switch him if Schwarber can get better in the outfield. Leave him in right, or put him in left. So I think this will be it for. Apparently, the Cardinals are big on Fowler. I think he's going to be a key. He's struggled in the World Series. Hopefully, he can get back going. But let's enjoy the time we have left with Dexter. I think it was a miracle that he's even back with the Cubs this year. The way they did it, surprising him in spring training, just phenomenal story. And I think hopefully the Cubs can get him a title. He was in the World Series in 2007 when the Red Sox won got swept. And now we can finally stop listening to Tito Francona and his undefeated streak in the World Series. Okay, that's done now. You face the Cardinals and you face the Rockies in your World Series. Then you're facing the 2016 Cubs. Now, the Cardinals might have been good that year. I think that's when Pujols was probably his last year in his prime in 2004. They swept that World Series? That's crazy. I didn't even think about that till now. The first one. But, so I think Schwarber, possibly, see how he is. Today's a practice day at Wrigley. Mandatory practice. So, just do what they got to do, and I think then you'll figure it out from there. But there's really no one else to play. I don't trust Jorge Soler. So I'd say Zobrist in right and Schwarber in left would be my prediction. And how long was that game last night? They started an hour early and it still finished at 10 o'clock Central. Oh, good God, guys. These games are unbearable. And that's in Cleveland, 11 o'clock. Now, the Cubs got the win, not going to complain. But still, I'm not a big fan of these 4-hour games. And again, if they would have lasted about 20 minutes longer, or 40 minutes longer, there would have been, that rain came, and I think that was the rain from here, because it rained non-stop all day yesterday here in southeastern Wisconsin. But shall be fun to see Wrigley Field with that World Series atmosphere. We'll be previewing the weekend coming up tomorrow with Papa Sean on Sunfather Friday. We got some Bulls to talk about as they get ready to tip off the 2016-17 season tonight at the United Center. But first, as always, to kind of separate the recapping from the previewing, here's your Windy City Sports Minute. This is your Windy City Sports Minute for Thursday, October the 27th. Well, Game 2 of the World Series is in the books, and the Cubs win it of a final of 5-1 behind almost 6 no-hit innings by Jake Arrieta, and a roll as Chapman shut the door, including 2 big hits by Kyle Schwarber. The Cubs even up the series 1-1. Game 3 will be tomorrow night from the friendly confines. The first World Series game at Wrigley Field since 1945. The expecting pitching matchup, Kyle Hendricks going up against Josh Tomlin. The NBA tips off tonight for the Bulls at the United Center. They'll welcome in the Boston Celtics. That game will be a 7 p.m. start on TNT. Dwayne Wade's first regular season game, home game, at the United Center as a member of the Chicago Bulls. That is your Windy City Sports Minute. Now back to Windy City Sports Talk. Welcome back here to Windy City Sports Talk. Glad you're listening, tuning in as the Cubs 1-1 here in the World Series. Let's check in as Nick's chiming in. One thing I did want to mention, and he reminded me, the Dwayne Wade LeBron James bet. They face each other in December. I believe they face each other next week. No, never mind. That's Miami and New York. Never mind. They'll be facing, I believe, in December. And the loser, because of course, if you don't know, LeBron James, I don't think Dwayne Wade's really a Cub fan. I think he's just a Chicago supporter. I've never really ever heard him talk about the Cubs, which I thought also Jason Kipnis was a White Sox fan, but he's coming off as a Cub fan. But we're going to pass all that up. But LeBron James was at the game last night, and he brought them good luck because they lost. But in Cleveland, and he's a Cavs fan, and Dwayne Wade, I think, is a Chicago fan. So the loser has to wear the winning team's uniform to the arena or the United Center, whatever, I'm not sure, in December. So that'll be fun to see, hopefully see LeBron James in a Cub uniform. So we'll see. That's a fun bet. Let's see what else Nick said. He said, I was so worried after Game 1. Comes with being a Cubs fan, I guess. Yes, definitely. I wasn't worried after Game 1. I was confident after Game 1 because I knew that you're going to lose to the Rays. Comes with being a Cubs fan. Schwarber, solid. Arrieta back. Being Jake. Zobrist buying for World Series MVP. I said that last night to my dad. I said if this series ended today, it's Zobrist all the way for the World Series MVP. 3 of the next 5 at Wrigley with the wind blowing out. Let's take at least 2. Yep, that's my goal. I say take 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 from Wrigley. And Baez right now is swinging at everything. So hopefully he puts that away, and I'm sure he'll be back at the bottom of the lineup. As a Chicago fan, this is also Nick. If the Cubs can complete this, I will have seen every Chicago team win a championship. I was 6 when the Bears won. I saw 2 NBA titles live at the United Center with MJ. I've witnessed Blackhawks playoff hockey with 3 championships. And the White Sox, was never a fan, but they represented. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's great for the city. I mean, a lot of people keep barking about the Cubs, but we've been lucky as sports fans to be able to see a lot. Like, I was born in 91, missed out on the Bears. Did get to see them in a Super Bowl in 2006, 7. The White Sox, I vaguely remember that. I was a freshman in high school. The titles, I just really started getting into sports. I was 7 years old when they lost, when the Bulls won their last title. Saw them in a conference final, but they still never been able to get past LeBron. And then Blackhawks, I've witnessed all 3, so that's great. So yeah, Chicago's been blessed with some really good sports teams, and I think I said it yesterday, I'm going to say it to begin with. Once the Cubs win it, I think this isn't going to be the last, because they have 5 to 7 years of dominance, I think. And I think they have a great chance of being a dynasty. Some sad news to report. I don't like to do this to bring it on a downer, because this show is very positive today. About the Jose Fernandez situation. Of course, we talked about that in length in the end of September. Been about a month now. Toxicology reports are going to be coming out soon, but the Miami Herald, which is the newspaper in Miami, announced that I believe it was the officers or the coroner, that whoever did by the bodies, there was a very heavy odor of alcohol on that boat when they recovered the bodies. So they're almost guaranteed that alcohol had an issue. I shared the article on Facebook today. Very sad story. I was just thinking today, too, and this is how crazy this stuff works. Because I was thinking, like, the Marlins are that close to being very, very good. A healthy Giancarlo Stanton, a healthy Christian Yelich, because I think them two are really good. D. Gordon. Then you put in that veteran presence of Martin Prado, and then I'm like, okay, and their rotation is set with Jose Fernandez. No. So I'm glad I didn't say that on the air, even though I'm saying it now, but that Marlins team, I think that puts a void in their team not having but obviously team comes last in that way, but still a sad story, and I think that definitely puts the Marlins from being even though it doesn't mean a thing right now because his life was way more important than what he did for a career, but I think that puts the Marlins back from being, I think they were close to being a playoff team this year, but I think they're going to need to get some pitching in the offseason and see if they can do that. But I think that really sets them back because they had a 5-star starting pitcher. And that's tragic. And you kind of knew alcohol was going to be involved. And unfortunately, it looks like it will be. So that's that. Bulls Celtics tonight from the United Center. Did you see what happened last night? Russell Westbrook, which I like Russell Westbrook. I feel like he's like the odd man out now, without having really any talent there in Oklahoma City. I think the one guy's still there. I can't think of his name. Well, basketball will take me a couple of weeks to get the name. Serge Ibaka, that's the name. I think he's still there. But I think this will be, but anyway, he was talking, of course, Philly fans, which you really don't want to mess with, where it's sitting there yapping about, I don't know how there was an exchange of words behind the net, and he got the 2-finger salute by a fan, did Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook went to talk to the referees, and they gave him the old Olay. They kicked out the fan. And he's a podiatrist or whatever it is, something to deal with your urinary tract. So he's seen a lot of stuff. Yeah. We're going to change that subject. I don't know how. You can't really segue. I'm talking about a man that looks at tract infections and stuff like urinary tract. So we're just gonna gallivant and talk about the Bulls. Yeah, Nick just commented, and it's a great call. Anthony Davis last night, 50 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, 4 blocks, and also what Nick forgot to mention, they lost. Oh, God, I think the Bulls had a game like that with Derrick Rose, or Jimmy Butler had a big game like that, and they lost. So, been there, but the Pelicans don't really have much there. They're the New Orleans Pelicans, right? Because I always confuse. They're the New Orleans Pelicans, Charlotte Hornets. It's all confusing. And the Charlotte Hornets are the New Orleans Pelicans, but the Charlotte Hornets now are the Charlotte Bobcats. Explain that to your grandchildren. Freaking crazy. But, so yeah, great night for him. Also, there was some pretty good numbers out there last night. The Heat were able to get a win over the Magic. I like following the Heat. That team lost everything. They lost Wade. Bosch had to go because of his illness or his. So that's tragic. Or that's tough. So, but they got a lot of young talent there. I've been to that. Them people. I went there for a Bulls Heat game when them two were hated each other. That was the year the Heat won their first championship. It was April, right before the playoffs started. Bulls. That was the lockout year. Bulls Heat. John. What was his name? That wasn't John Love, was it? John Love III? John, whatever his name was, the guard. Got into a fight. But anyway, I got told by a guy outside of American Airlines Arena that you're in our house. There was a police officer on duty. So that was scary. Went to Miami, went to 3 games at Marlins Park. Cubs got swept. That was the year the Marlins went and bought everything. Their first year at Marlins Park. We got Hanley Ramirez and then Giancarlo Stanton, Jose Reyes, Mark Burley. And I went down to Miami for 4 games and didn't see 1 win. Bulls lost 2. But Bulls are looking for a win tonight against the Celtics. They signed their top pick of 2015, the Celtics pick. It's still a young Celtic team. Avery Bradley, I think, is very good. They just signed Al Horford. The Celtics played last night and won against the Nets in Brooklyn, I think. Or that might have been in Boston. I don't know. But, so they're coming off a win. Bulls trying to make their debut. It's on TNT, but I hope they show the introductions because I want to see. It's going to be a loud ovation for Dwayne Wade. But it's nice to see that the World Series is off. Give the Bulls an opportunity to get welcomed in. I'm sure I don't think there's really a lot of diehard basketball fans that mix with diehard baseball fans. Them are my favorite 2 sports that I love to talk about. So they'll be the 2 sports that I talk the most confidence about on this show. So hopefully we're looking for a Bulls win, and hopefully they can pull it out. I think this is going to be a fun year. I think they have a chance to be within. I think they can contend with Toronto for that 2 seed. I think it'll be fun to see LeBron and Wade face each other as much as they can. But I think a 2 to 8, get in the playoffs. Last year they couldn't get in. It's embarrassing when you can't get in the playoffs in basketball. There's 8 seeds, especially in the East. So make it fun. I think this is going to be a good year. Second year for Hoiberg. And this is Jimmy Butler's team. There's nothing, no. I mean, I enjoyed Noah's enthusiasm, but you get them, whatever he did gone. You got Rose and all them problems gone. So just embrace it and enjoy a fun season of Bulls basketball. And hopefully this will lead to them. I don't see a championship in the near future, but a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. So let's see if they can make a deep run. Because I think they could beat Toronto. I mean, Toronto's like the choke artist of basketball. They always seem to get in there and look so dominant, and then they can't do anything. So that's the Bulls tonight and the Celtics from the United Center, 7 p.m. TNT. Again, the Cubs tie up the World Series 1-1. They're off tonight. We'll have a preview of Game 3, 4, and 5 tomorrow. Plus, we'll recap Bulls Celtics. Plus, we'll talk about the Hawks who are back in action tomorrow. We don't have to talk about the Bears. We'll do that on Monday with Scott Beatty. Because the Bears play Monday night against the Vikings. Halloween night at home. You want to hear something scary? The Bears. They're not, and that's not scary in a good way. It's disgusting. It's like getting Brussels sprouts for trick or treat. Papa Sean's in tomorrow. Father-son or son-father Friday. Should be fun to close out the week and get ready for the first World Series game at Wrigley Field. Everyone have a great night. Enjoy basketball. And we'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, Chicago.